Hello, I'm sitting in my office today because I wanted to show you some of the footage that I had of Israel, because today we're going to be reading out of the book of Joshua. And one of the things that Joshua, of course, is famous for is the Battle of Jericho. We were in Israel and we went to Jericho. In fact, there's a picture of Jericho there, Jericho in modern day Israel. And this shadow here is the shadow of a mountain nearby, which is the mountain of temptation. It's where, on top of this mountain is where Jesus was tempted by Satan. And they've put a cable car up here. These cables are going to the top. And we took the cable car from downtown Jericho and we took the cable car up to the top. And as you go up you can see the extent of the town. It's not a very big town. It's a very poor town. It's also an Arab town or a Palestinian town. No Jews live there. And in fact the bus driver on our tour wouldn't even come into the town of Jericho with us because he was fearful that he could be abducted and used as a hostage. So sadly he stayed out of town on the highway. There's a service station out on the edge of town where he stayed. And the Arab bus driver took us into town and allowed us to go to this cable car and go up to Mount Temptation. So we'll read a few things from the book of Joshua. From chapter 1, important instructions. From verse 8. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Straight from Joshua 1, 8 and 9. Excellent stuff. Then, of course, Joshua was trained by Moses. He was an understudy to Moses for many years, and he wandered around in the wilderness with Moses and the Israelites for many years. And he was with Moses when Moses received the commandments from the Lord. So he was certainly a brave and powerful leader to take over the job of leading the people. And the book of Joshua tells what happened in the desert, and then just before they go over the border into Canaan, he has to ask all the men to be circumcised. They'd been wandering in the desert, they were disobedient, they were grumbling, and they didn't obey the law properly, and so a lot of the young boys weren't circumcised. But the Lord gave Joshua instructions to have all the men circumcised. So when that was done, he said they'll be ready to cross into the promised land. And then there's the fall of Jericho itself. Now Jericho was tightly shut up because the Israelites, from chapter 6, no one went out and no one came in. Then the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have all the people give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the people will go up, every man straight in. So that's how they did it. It's a very common and famous story, how they marched around the city every day. But on the 7th day, they went around 7 times and blasted the horns. And so they went in and they destroyed the city. totally. Then from verse 24 of chapter 6, they burned the whole city and everything in it. But they put the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and the iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. But Joshua spared Rahab, the prostitute, with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. But then in verse 26, I came to understand why there's nothing much left of Jericho today, why it's a dirty, undeveloped town. We find out why. Verse 26 in chapter 6 of Joshua, at that time Joshua pronounced this solemn oath. He said, cursed before the Lord is the man who undertakes to rebuild the city of Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son will he lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest will he set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. And that's what we found. It looked like a cursed city. It was dirty. It wasn't very progressive. It was just a few Arab people making money out of the tourists and selling trinkets and giving camel rides, very short camel rides. And so it was not a prosperous city. When we came up on this cable car, we actually went over the vineyards and the fields here, and we saw where the old wall was, and it was just a total rubble heap. It looked like mud walls had collapsed. It was not a stone wall, but anyhow it was reduced to nothing when we saw it from the air. So that's the book of Joshua, and if you want to continue the readings through the Bible, just click on the button that you'll see on the video and come and join us for the next book, which is Judges. So hang around, we'll take you to the next book in the Bible next time. So you have a great day. We'll see you later.